Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking and controversial incidents involving Russian President Vladimir Putin. A heated moment, an explosive question, and a swift act of censorship. This story has it all. Watch the video until the end, subscribe to the channel, and share the lenses with us and comment. During a recent public forum, Putin's reaction to a journalist's probing question not only sparked international outrage but also raised serious questions about Russia's stance on media freedom and transparency. What exactly happened? Why was the video quickly deleted by Russian authorities? And what does this reveal about the inner workings of the Kremlin? It all began when an American journalist dared to ask Putin a bold question about Russia's energy policies and alleged manipulation of gas supplies to Europe amidst a growing energy crisis. Her inquiry seemed to hit a nerve, as Putin lashed out with what some have described as a mix of anger and condescension. His words sent ripples through the media, but before the full impact could be felt, the video mysteriously disappeared from Russian platforms. Watch the video until the end, subscribe to the channel, and share the lenses with us and comment. In today's video, we'll unravel the details of this dramatic exchange, dissect Putin's fiery response, and explore the implications of this incident for Russia's media landscape and global relations. How does this align with the Kremlin's long-standing approach to controlling narratives? What does this reveal about Putin's leadership style under pressure? And perhaps most importantly, what message does this send to the international community? Stay tuned as we piece together this gripping story and analyze the fallout from this unprecedented confrontation. Get ready for a deep dive into the intersection of power, media, and politics in modern Russia. Let's begin. Watch the video until the end, subscribe to the channel, and share the lenses with us and comment. In a recent press conference, Russian President Vladimir Putin faced a direct and provocative question from British journalist Keir Simmons, who boldly asserted that Putin appeared weaker than former US President Donald Trump. This confrontation occurred during Putin's annual call-in event, a platform traditionally used to project his authority and address national concerns. Simmons highlighted several setbacks for Russia in 2024, including unachieved military objectives, significant Russian casualties, the assassination of a Russian general, and the overthrow of Syria's leader, an ally of Russia. He questioned Putin's leadership strength in light of these events. Visibly angered, Putin struggled to respond directly to the criticism. He diverted by emphasizing Russia's military capabilities and expressing a willingness to engage in talks, particularly with Donald Trump, who had previously indicated a desire to negotiate peace concerning Russia's invasion. The press conference, intended to reinforce Putin's image of control, inadvertently showcased vulnerabilities amid ongoing conflicts and political instability. Notably, Putin made oblique references to his personal life, mentioning his little ones, which some interpret as an acknowledgement of rumored secret children with Olympic gymnast Alina Kabayeva. This incident underscores the growing challenges to Putin's leadership, both domestically and internationally, as journalists and political figures continue to scrutinize his actions and policies. In a dramatic turn of events at the Kremlin's annual call-in press conference, Russian President Vladimir Putin found himself facing an unrelenting question from British journalist Keir Simmons. Known for his fearless approach, Simmons delivered a statement that left the room stunned. "Mr. President, many believe Russia is losing its grip on power, militarily, politically, and even diplomatically. With setbacks such as unachieved objectives in Ukraine, the loss of key military leaders, and Syria's recent upheaval, does this not show that you are weaker than Donald Trump?" The atmosphere was electric. Journalists exchanged quick glances, sensing the magnitude of the moment. Putin, typically composed and unflappable, stiffened. For a moment, his carefully curated image of control faltered. "Your question is provocative and unfounded," Putin began, his voice low but firm, the tension evident in his tone. "Russia remains strong, resilient, and prepared to face any challenges. We are not here to compare ourselves to others, but to ensure the safety and prosperity of our nation." But Simmons wasn't done. With a sharp follow-up, he pointed to Russia's mounting challenges: the ongoing war in Ukraine, significant military casualties, the assassination of a key general, and the collapse of Syria's leadership, once a crucial ally to Moscow. "Are these the signs of strength?" he asked, his voice unwavering. The room grew even quieter, the weight of the question hanging in the air. Putin's expression darkened, and his usual composure gave way to an uncharacteristic display of emotion. "Do not underestimate Russia's resolve," he thundered, leaning forward, his hands gripping the edge of the desk. "We have faced hardships before, and we have always emerged stronger. Anyone who doubts our strength will learn otherwise. The moment was raw, unfiltered, and rare for a leader who has built his reputation on stoicism. Simmons had not only touched a nerve, but had exposed a vulnerability that Putin could no longer hide. In the hours following the press conference, clips of the exchange went viral across global social media platforms. Hashtags like #PutinRage and #KremlinUnmasked began trending, sparking intense debate. However, within Russia, the footage was conspicuously absent. State media released an edited version of the event, cutting out Simmons' question and Putin's heated response. The Kremlin's efforts to control the narrative only fueled speculation. Was this a sign of a leader on edge, struggling to maintain his grip on power amid increasing internal and external pressures? For many, this moment symbolized more than just a heated exchange. It was a reflection of the growing cracks in Putin's once ironclad image. The carefully managed perception of strength and control was beginning to erode under the weight of war, political instability, and public scrutiny. As the dust settled, one question remained. Was this the beginning of the end for Putin's era of dominance, or just another chapter in his storied reign? Only time would tell, but for now, the world watched as the Kremlin scrambled to rewrite the narrative of a moment that had already been etched into history. Just a day ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin held his annual end-of-year Q&A session, a marathon event lasting almost 4.5 hours. The session allowed Russian citizens, journalists, and even foreign reporters to ask Putin any question they wanted. While these events are usually carefully managed to maintain Putin's image, this year's session felt different. The questions were tougher, and despite his remarkable stamina, Putin made a few missteps during the lengthy session. What has drawn the most attention, however, is the fact that a critical question from the BBC was noticeably missing from the official Kremlin website. The site, which meticulously documents everything related to Putin's public appearances, omitted this specific exchange. The question seemed to unsettle Putin, and his response revealed a rare moment of frustration. The BBC journalist asked, "Exactly 25 years ago, Boris Yeltsin resigned, handed you power, and told you to take care of Russia. Some 25 years later, do you think you've taken care of Russia? Because what we see are substantial losses in the so-called special military operation, Ukrainian soldiers in Kherson, more NATO on Russia's borders with Sweden and Finland, sanctions, high inflation, and demographic problems. Do you think you've fulfilled your promise to Russia?" Putin, visibly irritated, defended his legacy. "Yes, I think I've taken care of Russia," he responded. "In fact, I've pulled it back from the edge of the abyss. Before I came to power, we were on the brink of losing our sovereignty entirely. Without sovereignty, Russia cannot exist as an independent state." He then shifted focus, bringing up the West's treatment of Boris Yeltsin, his predecessor. Putin painted a picture of a Russia humiliated and used by Western powers. They patted Yeltsin on the shoulder when he complied with their interests, but the moment he stood up for Yugoslavia or criticized NATO's bombing of Belgrade, they turned on him, mocked him, and called him a drunk, Putin said, adding a personal anecdote about Yeltsin's struggles with alcohol, including an infamous incident where Yeltsin, drunk and naked, tried to hail a taxi outside the White House in Washington, D.C. Putin's pivot was strategic, an attempt to contrast his leadership with Yeltsin's, positioning himself as the savior who restored Russia's independence and strength. But the omission of this exchange from the Kremlin's website suggests it was far from a moment of triumph for Putin. The BBC question wasn't the only uncomfortable moment for Putin. American journalist Keir Simmons from NBC News also challenged him, bringing up Russia's failures in Ukraine and asking whether Putin believed he had made Russia stronger or weaker on the global stage. Simmons' question highlighted significant losses on the battlefield, increased isolation due to sanctions, and economic struggles. Putin's response was deflective and defensive. He claimed that Russia's economy remained strong, citing growth and ranking the country fourth globally in terms of purchasing power parity. He dismissed concerns about NATO expansion and insisted that Russia was prepared to work with other nations, though it could survive without Western allies. This year's Q&A session offered a glimpse of a leader under increasing scrutiny, both domestically and internationally. The omission of critical questions from the Kremlin's official record highlights the sensitivity surrounding Putin's image. After 25 years in power, Putin's once unassailable authority appears more fragile. The BBC journalist's question pointed to cracks in his legacy, while Putin's defensive response hinted at deeper insecurities about his place in history. The Kremlin's decision to delete the exchange from its records reflects a regime struggling to reconcile its narrative of strength with growing evidence of vulnerabilities. The move has only fueled speculation and criticism, both at home and abroad. While Putin attempted to control the conversation by invoking Russia's sovereignty and independence, the growing challenges, military setbacks, economic sanctions, and demographic decline, are becoming harder to ignore. The Q&A session, intended as a show of resilience, instead revealed a leader grappling with mounting pressure. This Q&A session, with its pointed questions and heated responses, serves as a microcosm of the challenges facing Putin's leadership. As the Kremlin struggles to maintain its grip on the narrative, one question looms larger than ever: is Putin's iron-fisted rule nearing its breaking point? For now, the world watches as the cracks in the Kremlin's armor grow more visible, and the story of Putin's legacy becomes increasingly uncertain. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently conducted his annual end-of-year Q&A session, a nearly 4.5-hour event where he fielded questions from both Russian and foreign journalists. While this type of event is usually seen as a controlled opportunity for Putin to demonstrate his leadership, this year it included moments of visible tension, particularly when foreign journalists pressed him on Russia's recent challenges. One of the most striking exchanges came from an American journalist who asked Putin how he planned to approach a potential meeting with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. The journalist highlighted Russia's ongoing struggles, including the significant losses in the special military operation in Ukraine, the assassination of a Russian general in Moscow, the overthrow of Syria's Russian-backed leader, and the growing economic and military strength of NATO countries. The journalist concluded by suggesting that Putin would enter such a meeting as the weaker leader, a statement that clearly irked the Russian president. In response, Putin rejected the premise outright, stating, "You said I would be in a weakened state. Well, I believe Russia has become much stronger over the past 2 or 3 years." He emphasized Russia's increased self-reliance and military advancements, claiming the nation was now a truly sovereign state capable of making decisions without outside influence. Putin attempted to deflect criticism by focusing on the economic and military capabilities of Russia, asserting that the combat readiness of its armed forces was the highest in the world and that Russia's economy was robust despite Western sanctions. However, independent analyses suggest a different picture. Russia's inflation, which Putin claimed was around 9%, is estimated by external experts to be as high as 26 to 30%, a figure far higher than inflation rates in Western countries. The journalist also referenced Syria, where the situation has become increasingly embarrassing for Russia. Putin claimed that Russia's intervention in Syria over the past decade had achieved its primary objective, preventing the formation of a terrorist enclave. However, the reality on the ground paints a different picture. When opposition forces took significant territory, Russian-backed forces, including pro-Iranian units, often withdrew without resistance. Additionally, when rebels effectively gained control of the country, Russia had to rely on NATO member Turkey to evacuate its troops and equipment, a humiliating situation for Moscow. In another part of the Q&A, Putin discussed the latest Russian missile system, known as the Arsnik. He rejected claims from Western analysts that the missile could be intercepted by advanced air defense systems, such as the US-made Patriot and THAAD systems. Putin's comments appeared defensive, with him even suggesting that Russia could learn about the performance of these systems by monitoring their use in Ukraine. This statement raised eyebrows, as it implied a reliance on indirect observation rather than outright confidence in Russia's military superiority. While Putin sought to portray strength, the Q&A revealed significant vulnerabilities. His claims about Russia's economic stability, military advancements, and sovereignty are increasingly questioned, both domestically and abroad. Moreover, reports suggest that U.S. President-elect Trump is pressuring NATO allies to increase defense spending, potentially up to 5% of GDP, signaling a more unified and militarily robust Europe. For Putin, this scenario represents a worst-case outcome, as it strengthens NATO's deterrence capabilities against Russia. Despite his attempts to project confidence, the session revealed the growing challenges facing Putin's regime. From economic struggles and military setbacks to an increasingly skeptical international audience, Putin's grip on the narrative seems to be slipping. The omission of certain exchanges from official Kremlin records further highlights the sensitivity surrounding these topics. This Q&A session was a stark reminder that while Putin continues to project an image of strength, the cracks in his narrative are becoming increasingly apparent. Recently, Vladimir Putin made bold claims about Russia's new Arsnik missile, portraying it as an unstoppable advanced weapon that no air defense system could counter. The missile reportedly has an intermediate range of 3,000 kilometers, utilizes multiple independently targeted re-entry vehicles, MIRVs, and boasts nuclear capabilities. Russia's narrative suggests this missile is a groundbreaking achievement, capable of altering the balance of power in global warfare. However, Western analysts, including former Navy SEAL Chuck Farrer, remain skeptical. According to Chuck, the Oresnik isn't revolutionary. It's a prototype intermediate-range ballistic missile, akin to older technologies, albeit with some advancements. Notably, claims that it travels at Mach 25 were debunked. Its actual speed is closer to Mach 11. Furthermore, Ukraine's air defenses have reportedly intercepted similar Russian missiles before, undermining Moscow's unstoppable rhetoric. Interestingly, the US has comparable and far superior systems, such as Trident missiles, which offer global reach and precision targeting from anywhere in the world. Unlike Russia, the US opts for secrecy with its capabilities, preferring to withhold details until deployment. This difference in approach highlights Russia's proficiency in information warfare. By amplifying the Oresnik's capabilities, Moscow seeks to project strength and deter adversaries. But as experts point out, this strategy often relies on bluffing. Russia's track record with hyped weapons, like the Kinjal hypersonic missile, has shown vulnerabilities, with many systems intercepted or destroyed in combat. On the geopolitical stage, Russia's development of such weapons has also raised questions about treaty violations. While Moscow blames the US for withdrawing from the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces (INF) treaty, analysts argue that Russia had been violating it for years. The decision to pull out was a response to Russia's non-compliance. In an ironic twist, Putin suggested a technological duel between Russia's missiles and NATO's air defenses to prove his point. This proposal has drawn sharp criticism, with Ukrainian President Zelensky calling it a reckless statement that disregards human lives. As this war of narratives continues, one thing remains clear: while Russia's missiles may pose a threat, they are far from the game-changer Putin wants the world to believe. Instead, the real battle lies in shaping perceptions, a domain where Russia excels but risks overplaying its hand. Yesterday, Vladimir Putin's year-end press conference, lasting 4.5 hours, shook the world's attention. However, there was one thing that went missing among Putin's answers: a question and his reaction to it. This question, which was deleted from the Kremlin's official website, led to Putin suddenly losing his composure. What was asked that made the Kremlin remove it from the broadcast? Are you curious? The most striking moment of this year's Q&A was when the BBC reporter sharply asked Putin, "You've been ruling Russia for 25 years, but when we look back, we see failures in Ukraine, NATO getting closer to Russia's borders, high inflation, and demographic crises. Do you think you've really taken care of Russia?" Putin's response was so intense that the Kremlin deleted it from the website afterward. What happened? Why was Putin's reaction like this? This wasn't just any question. It was also a sign of how fragile the strong leader image Putin has been trying to maintain for years truly is. His reaction in front of everyone raises the question: was it a mistake or a strategy? Putin often targets Yeltsin, claiming that he preserved Russia's independence and that all the criticisms against him were baseless. But was there a weakness behind this defense? Another key moment in this Q&A came when American journalist Carr Simons asked, "Russia has failed to achieve its objectives. Many soldiers have died, including a general this week. What do you plan to do next?" Putin responded by saying that the US did not want Russia to have a weak leadership and that Russia had grown stronger over the past 3 years. However, these words can be questioned. Official reports barely mention the country's high inflation rate. According to independent studies, inflation in Russia has reached up to 30%, but the Kremlin is trying to present the situation as under control. Putin's statements about the economy and foreign policy were like a mask. The reality, however, doesn't seem so bright. Failures in Syria and the withdrawal of Russian troops with Turkey's help show Russia's weakening position on the global stage. All of these developments further highlight how Putin is trapped. So, was Putin's reaction to these questions truly shaped by the confidence of a leader, or was it the panic of a regime in decline? And what does this situation mean for Russia's future? It seems that Putin is afraid of losing the image he has been trying to protect for so long. What do you think about this? Do Putin's statements in this press conference signal Russia's strong future, or is time running out for him? Share your thoughts with us and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.